Good morning, everybody, if it's morning where you are. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. It might be afternoon where you are, or evening where you are. Anyways, we are here to bring you live coverage of today's White House press briefing, which starts in about an hour. And we're going to be taking your comments and questions on the air and getting you some of the latest Trump administration news updates before then, and thank you for being here for the stream. And I want to say thanks also to our, it says the briefing time right on the screen, 1 p.m. Eastern time is when the briefing is. We usually come on a bit before the briefing here. So I want to thank our moderators here. Let me give you a couple shout outs. And thanks to Idaho Star and Surly Dev, who are over there moderating. They're there on Twitch. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha. Thanks for moderating. Oh, thanks, MK. MK updated their name. I appreciate that, MK. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for your support, MK. Also, thanks to Georgia Peach for becoming a member over there on YouTube. Thank you to, hang on a moment here, Kay Lowry Body moderating over there on Facebook. Thank you, Kay. I appreciate it. Thanks, Kristen McConnell Gates, for subscribing too. And hi to all of our viewers. Marcel Kern is out there watching. Thank you, Marcel. The State Department briefing, MBW. I don't know that I'm going to show the State Department briefing because I'm not aware of some like huge crisis that's going on. And given that we're going to show the White House briefing, I'd rather, I think, just, I appreciate the request, but I'd rather just be able to talk about some of the things going on in the world and read some of your comments on the air, because then if I'm showing the State Department briefing, then it's kind of just silent here and I don't get to hear from you guys. And we don't get to talk about the stories that are going to be talked about in the White House briefing. So, I mean, I sometimes, if there's some kind of big crisis going on, I will show it. But usually I don't show that. I don't show that in the pre-show. Half Jack says, aren't they dumping Hegseth today? I haven't heard about anything about Pete Hegseth being let go as the Secretary of Defense, but I'm sure that's something that's going to be asked about. So I think that's a good place for us to start with some updates on that, because I'm sure you will see some questions about that today. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Oops, I forgot to do something here. If you missed it, we covered the death of the Pope Francis, yesterday. Here, I'm going to give you an update on the whole Hegseth situation right now. I'm pulling a couple things up here to show you. Okay. Here, look, here's an update right here. Trump stands behind Hegseth after attack plans shared in second Signal chat. Probably a lot of you remember the story that was around, what was it, about a month ago, when the Secretary of Defense shared detailed plans for an upcoming attack by the U.S. on the Houthis in a Signal chat, which is not, I would say, as policy goes, it is not an approved place for that kind of information. And that was a big controversy. So you can see there's reporting now that there was a second Signal chat. So you can see this is being widely reported, but this article is from Reuters. It says, President Trump said yesterday he stood behind U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth after reports that Secretary Hegseth shared details of a March attack on Yemen's Houthis in a message group that included his wife, his brother, and his personal lawyer. The revelations that Hegseth used the unclassified messaging system Signal to share highly sensitive security details for the second time came at an uncertain moment for him in the Pentagon, where senior officials were ousted last week as part of an internal leak investigation. There's this whole other thing going on where a number of senior officials at the Pentagon have been let go in recent weeks, last week, and then one former official close to Hegseth posted an article about him that was critical of him. That happened too last week. But yesterday, President Trump said, Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. Asked if he remained confident in Hegseth, Trump said, oh, totally. Asked the Houthis how he's doing, Trump said. The U.S. military under Trump has ramped up its bombing campaign against the Iran-backed Houthi group. In the second Signal chat, Hegseth shared details of the attack similar to those revealed last month by the Atlantic magazine's reporting, after its editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, was included in a separate Signal chat on the Signal app by mistake. So, again, there's reporting now that says, in addition to that chat with various officials, the Signal chat where Hegseth shared sensitive attack information, he also shared it in a Signal chat with a message group that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. The White House spokesperson Karoline Leavitt, who we'll be hearing from today in the press briefing, denied an NPR report that the Trump administration had begun searching for a new defense secretary. The second Signal chat included about a dozen people and was created during Hegseth's confirmation process to discuss administrative issues rather than detailed military planning. Among them was Hegseth's brother, who's a Department of Homeland Security liaison to the Pentagon. Hegseth's wife, Jennifer, a former Fox News producer, has attended sensitive meetings with foreign military counterparts, according to images the Pentagon has publicly posted. A person familiar with the matter told Reuters that Hegseth had been counseled against sharing information on unsecure systems like Signal before he did so last month. Let's see here. And then you can see here it says, oops, hold on. What's happening here? Where am I getting that from? Oh, I see. Give me a moment here. You're going to hear some audio. Going to hear two of me for a second. You can see here it says, oops, what's happening here? Where am I getting that from? Now you're not seeing two of me. Trump removed a number of defense secretaries during his first administration over policy differences or questions about their loyalty. Hegseth, however, is seen as being in lockstep with Trump. He has deployed thousands of troops to the border with Mexico, called on Europe to spend more on its defenses, and taken aim at diversity in the military. And then I want to mention one other thing. I'll take some comments in a second. But in addition to the new Signal chat allegations, there is reporting, where is the, I want to show you some stuff about people in the Pentagon, officials who've been let go. So let me show you something about that. Where is, here. So in addition to that stuff going on, you have this as well. 3 Hegseth aides ousted in leak investigation decry baseless attacks. Now this article is from 2 days ago. 3 former senior advisors to Defense Secretary Hegseth decried on Saturday what they called baseless attacks after each was escorted from the Pentagon in an expanding probe on information leaks. Dan Caldwell, a Hegseth aide, Colin Carroll, Chief of Staff to the Deputy Defense Secretary Stephen Feinberg, and Darren Selnick, Hegseth's Deputy Chief of Staff, were among 4 officials in Hegseth's inner circle who were ousted this past week. While the 3 initially had been placed on leave pending the investigation, a joint statement shared by Caldwell on X said the 3 were incredibly disappointed by the manner in which our service at the Department of Defense ended. Unnamed Pentagon officials have slandered our character with baseless attacks on our way out the door. He said, at this time, we have still not been told what we were investigated for, if there's an active investigation, or if there was even a real investigation of leaks to begin with. Also, former Pentagon spokesperson John Ulyat announced he was resigning this week. The Pentagon, however, said he was asked to resign. So there's a lot of turmoil at the Pentagon, I guess you could say right now, according to the various reporting about what's going on. So, but right now, President Trump said he is standing behind Pete Hegseth. I actually can probably show, I think I have a video about this I can show you. I want to take some comments on this, though. And again, I do think it's going to be, I think you're going to hear questions about this at the press briefing. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to mention. Here, this is this article I was mentioning that someone close to Hegseth posted. Here. So this is from an article from Reuters today. Disruptor Hegseth's unsettled Pentagon starts turning against him. Hegseth Monday accused his former trusted advisors of turning against him following revelations that he texted sensitive U.S. military strike plans from his personal phone to his wife, brother, attorney, and others. Hegseth said, "What a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and a bunch of hit pieces come out." Where is, yes, so John Ulyat, who was ousted from his job as a Pentagon spokesperson after 2 months, wrote an opinion piece published on Sunday in Politico. And John Ulyat, who was a Pentagon spokesperson, said Hegseth's Defense Department was in total chaos. He wrote in his article, Hegseth is now presiding over a strange and baffling purge that will leave him without his 2 closest advisors of over a decade, Caldwell and Selnick, and without chiefs of staff for him and his deputy. Ulyat concluded that Trump should fire Hegseth, saying, the dysfunction is now a major distraction for the president, who deserves better from his senior leadership. Trump's eldest son, Donald Jr., slammed Ulyat for the remark, saying on X, he's officially exiled from our movement. All right, so again, I'm assuming there'll be questions about this. I'm going to take some comments from you guys about this, and there's a video I think I can show you about all this from one of those articles. I'm going to pull that up here as well. But, you know, one of our viewers said they had heard that maybe Trump was going to fire Hegseth. That's not what the reporting is saying right now. And President Trump just yesterday said he was standing behind Hegseth. Our viewer, Bob Holtzman, says, I have a niece serving overseas in the Army Reserve. This crap makes me nervous. Thanks to your niece for her service. Matter PZ says, total chaos is opinion and exaggerated bias reporting. Again, that's not reporting from a publication. That's someone, the person who said that was this person who had just worked for 2 months as the Pentagon spokesperson. Let me show you something more about that. I need to pull it up on the screen here. Here we go. No, that's it. Here. This is an article from the Washington Post. Hegseth team gets new jolt with more allegations involving Signal app. And if we go down here, we can see on Sunday, Politico published an opinion piece by a former Hegseth spokesman, John Ulyat, that questioned Hegseth's ability to do the job. This piece was not some news outlet. This was his former spokesman. Ulyat, who was removed from his position last month after weeks of colleagues questioning his judgment, backed a joint statement released by Saturday by three people in the Pentagon who just got let go, I believe. Caldwell, who were close to Hegseth, Caldwell, Selnick, and a third fired political appointee, Colin Carroll, that questioned the accuracy of statements Hegseth's team has made against them. Ulyat wrote, "It's been a month of total chaos at the Pentagon. From leaks of sensitive operational plans to mass firings, the dysfunction is now a major distraction for the president, who deserves better from his senior leadership." Now again, Ulyat, who had been a former Hegseth spokesman, he also said in his article on Sunday there had been a near collapse inside the Pentagon's top ranks. Ulyat added, while the Pentagon said it would conduct polygraph tests of those under scrutiny for allegedly leaking information, not one of these three has been given a lie detector test. Now, I don't know. I can't say exactly what's going on in the Defense Department. I'm not there. Our viewer Space Fraggle thinks Hegseth is the leaker. Bubba Sizemore thinks Pete is over his head. Guy from the 207 says, thank God I'm retired military. Thank you for your service. Guy from the 207 thinks Hegseth is a joke. Karen Vaughn says Hegseth is the boss. He can fire who he wants. Sorry, not sorry. By the Sea says he doesn't have anywhere near the qualifications for Secretary of Defense. Karen Rose says, name one person who's ever been fired. Compliment their former boss. Irish Sweetness says, too many security breaches. Chris N says, leaky traitors. Kenny K says, Trump chose terrible leaders. The conservative Husker says, best source ever, pissed off people who were fired. All right, let's look at, yes, so I am still in Lima, Peru. I am on my my very end of my trip. I'm at the very end of my trip. Very soon I will be back in Boston. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me as I've been in Lima. I know it looks and sounds a bit different from here. Been doing the best I can with the setup here. But just I'm at the tail end of my trip, and I will soon be back. Let's see here. Oh, I was going to show you this video. Let me pull that up for you. Oops, where is it? This would be 422. I need the 422 video. Did it download here? Let's try this again. Or is it 421 video? It's downloading right now. Oh, it's right here, I think. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go. So this is a video from the Reuters article I was just showing you. I'll pull it up here to get it ready to play for you. Trump stands behind Hegseth after attack plans shared in second signal chat. Now the video is popping up on the screen right there. I'm going to hit play and hopefully this works. Why is this? Okay, there we go. Let's see if this works. Oh, no, I don't. Do I not have the volume on? Should have volume on it. Why am I not hearing it? Hold on. Is it? Do I not have the volume on? All right, I'm hearing something from. I'm hearing the video, but you're not hearing it. All right, that's interesting. I'm hearing the video. I'm hearing something from. I'm hearing the video, but you're not hearing it. That's interesting. Oh, I'm hearing the video. Hold on. I think I can fix this. Let's try this. Let's try a little refresh here. I think I can fix this. All right, well, now you're definitely hearing me. Let's try this. Let's try a little refresh here. Why are you hearing me? Let's see. You were hearing me. Why are you hearing me? Oh, I think I see. No. Oh, I figured out why you were hearing two of me. All right, I fixed the problem of you hearing two of me. Now I just need to have you hear this video. Let's try this one more time. All right, it's working, but you're not hearing. You're seeing him, but you're not hearing him. Try this one more time. I have a way I can fix this, but I was trying
part of an internal leak
I
investigation.
just fixed it. I just fixed it.
Donald Trump
Okay.
that he continues to stand by.
Here is the video.
Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth lashed out at reporters outside the White House on Monday after reports he shared highly sensitive security details in a second signal chat. He reportedly shared details of a March attack on Yemen's Houthis in a message group that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer.
See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
The renewed scrutiny comes at an uncertain moment for Hegseth and the Pentagon, where senior officials were ousted last week as part of an internal leak investigation. But President Donald Trump told reporters that he continues to stand behind his defense secretary.
Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think they've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job.
In the second signal chat, Hegseth shared Houthi attack details similar to those revealed last month by The Atlantic magazine that included its editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. A person familiar with the matter told Reuters that Hegseth had been counseled against sharing information on unsecure systems like Signal.
Sorry, you couldn't hear me. I'm just getting the audio fixed for you. Give me 1 second here. This, okay. This should work. Let's try this.
At least 9 Senate Democrats have called on Hegseth to resign since the latest news. But Republican lawmakers, who control both the Senate and House of Representatives, have largely been silent on the issue, and none have called for him to step down. Meanwhile, the White House denied a report from NPR saying that it had begun searching for a new defense secretary.
Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete.
All right, so that is one topic that's going to be asked about today. I'm pretty confident about that. We don't have to, I want to discuss some other topics before we get to the briefing. We'll take a few more comments here. Dogs thinks NPR is fake news. Jamie Rowland says he needs to resign or something. Thus, this guy is dangerous. Okay, so we have about a half an hour until this press briefing starts. One of our viewers had mentioned the stock market. Yes, after being down yesterday, the stock market is up today some. I will get you the latest numbers on that. I'm going to look at it right now. Yes, the Dow is up about, the Dow and the S&P and NASDAQ are all up around 3% today after being down a bunch yesterday. Just to let you know. A couple more comments on Hegseth, people are saying. Sugino thinks he doesn't project power and authority. Chris RD44 says lefty echo chamber. Ane says, how is this hard to follow protocols? Now, I don't know, it's possible that people will want to ask Hegseth questions at the briefing. And maybe Karoline Leavitt will just say, well, Trump said yesterday, President Trump said he's supporting him, and that's it, and I'm not answering any more questions about him. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see that. See what happens there. All right, what else? What else do we think our viewer Julie Shields thinks he's in way over his head? Okay, now let's talk about a different topic. Sorry, I'm pulling a couple things up here. And let me know if you think there's a topic that's going to be discussed. Oh, here's something quick about the Dow. Dow Jones Industrial Average rises 1,000 points to regain the ground it lost a day earlier, says AP. Oh, one of our viewers mentioned the dollar. Michael Hughes says, forget the Dow Stock Exchange. We have the Trump dollar. What's the tariff rates at today? 20 to 250%, and stand for, and for who? So one of our viewers want to talk about the dollar, which I'm guessing could be asked about. The dollar has seen some drops lately against other currencies, although I guess it's up today. Here, look. U.S. stocks climb after recent sell-off. Dollar up. Investors assess Trump comments on Fed chief. This is from Reuters. I could see this stuff asked about today. U.S. stocks rose more than, they're up about 3% today, some of the major indexes, after the previous day's sell-off, while the dollar recovered slightly, even as investors continue to assess U.S. President Trump's criticism of the Federal Reserve Chair. Trump stepped up his criticism of Fed Chair Jerome Powell. This could be asked about. For not cutting interest rates. You know what? I'm going to show you his post because that certainly could be asked about during the press briefing. Remember, in theory, the Fed is supposed to be independent of the presidency. The decisions on interest rates are not supposed to be political decisions. That's at least how it has been typically. I don't know how far that goes back, but certainly more recently. And a lot of from what I understand, it would make investors nervous if they thought that the Fed policy was being controlled by political considerations. Okay, here is what President Trump posted. This was yesterday. He said, preemptive cuts in interest rates are being called for by many. With energy costs way down, food prices, including Biden's egg disaster, substantially lower, and most other things trending down, there is virtually no inflation, he claims. With these costs trending so nicely downward, just what I predicted they would do, he says, there can almost be no inflation, but there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates. Now, Europe has already lowered 7 times. Powell has always been too late, except when it came to the election period when he lowered in order to help sleepy Joe Biden, later Kamala, get elected. How did that work out? That is what he posted yesterday on True Social. I read an interesting piece of analysis. I think it might have been in either Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg yesterday, but I can't remember. But the article said something, now it might have been, and it might have been in neither of those, but wherever I'd read this, the point that was made was that this might make it even harder for the Fed to lower interest rates, even if they were considering it, because the Fed wouldn't want to be seen as doing something just because Trump wanted them to. Because if investors think that the Fed is being controlled by political considerations, they might, for example, lose confidence that the Fed is going to keep inflation low and think the Fed is going to start pumping money into the economy, which would raise inflation. Anyways, so that I thought was interesting. But yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't be surprised if there are questions about, whether President Trump is considering firing Jerome Powell based on what he said yesterday. Russell Vanasek says Trump is letting him know he can be replaced. From what I understand, if Trump tried to replace Powell, that could end up being a legal battle because it's unclear legally if he can replace him. I believe Powell has said that's something he would fight legally, but let me see if I can get you anything about that. It's an interesting question. I need to pull up here. Oops. Here, I have a little article on it for you. Washington Post, can Trump remove Powell as Fed chair before Powell's term ends? Now, this article is from April 17th, from last week. President Trump last Thursday lambasted Federal Reserve Board Chair Powell, Jerome H. Powell, saying his termination cannot come fast enough, after Powell said that the Trump administration's trade war probably would cause a temporary increase in inflation. Trump has repeatedly called for the Fed to lower interest rates and indicated he does not want Powell to keep his position. But can the president remove the Fed chair before his term ends in May 2026? Who is Jerome Powell? Powell, a former investment banker and lawyer, served in the Treasury Department during President Bush's presidency, George H.W. Bush's presidency, and replaced Janet Yellen as the chair in 2018 during Trump's first term. He was reappointed by Biden in 2022. Powell has been described as a mild-mannered Republican businessman open to working across party lines to reach consensus. Why is Trump unhappy with Powell? In his first term, Trump speculated about firing Powell as the Fed planned for interest rate hikes and markets dipped on fears of a trade war with China. Since regaining the presidency, Trump has called on the Fed to lower interest rates, but Powell so far has resisted the White House's pressure. Trump's rancor resurfaced recently as financial markets have been roiled by the administration's changing tariff policies. Powell said those tariffs were significantly larger than anticipated and that a trade war could leave the central bank combating rising inflation and a broader economic slowdown at the same time. Powell's remarks led to a drop in U.S. stock markets last week. Can Trump remove a Fed chair? Despite Trump's talk about removing Powell, the president's advisors in his first term concluded he could not fire Powell without cause. The Federal Reserve, which regulates financial institutions and sets monetary policy, is an independent body and is meant to make decisions about the long-term health of the economy without political interference. In his Chicago speech, Powell said, "Our independence is a matter of law." He noted that officials serve long terms and that Fed independence has broad support among Republicans and Democrats alike. But a federal court recently gave Trump a partial win in his efforts to remove the leaders of two other independent agencies, including the National Labor Relations Board. The Supreme Court is considering whether to hear the case this spring. Peter Conti Brown, who is a financial regulation professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, said the court's ruling is a significant development that makes Fed independence less clear. Conti Brown said, "We had courts weigh in saying, yeah, the president does get to fire anybody he wants to. They didn't address the Fed exactly, but the ambiguity now has increased dramatically relative to where we were 6 years ago." Still, some experts say it is unlikely Trump would try to replace Powell early because such a drastic move probably would send markets into turmoil by undermining investors' confidence that the central bank is making decisions based on long-term economic goals and not on political expediency. Conti Brown says this is the way that you totally and irrevocably debauch a currency and break your capital markets, your bond markets, he says, if Trump were to fire Powell. Trump might try to shape the central bank in other ways. Some bank executives and former Fed officials have said they expect Trump might try to demote another member of the central bank's 7-member board. Interesting. Fed governors can be removed for cause, such as criminal activity or malfeasance, according to statute and court interpretations. Okay, so again, it's a legal question as to whether Trump would be legally allowed to remove Powell, even if he attempted to. The Postman thinks Powell is one of, if not the best Fed chairs since Volcker. Is that what the Postman said, I think? Our viewer, Mini Blanks Sleep, thinks Trump isn't his boss. But, you know, I would not be surprised to hear questions today like, for example, is President Trump thinking of removing Jerome Powell? By the way, a quick thanks to, I want to say thanks to Yelena, if I'm pronouncing this right, Yelena Yelena Zichalaska. I hope I said that right. I probably didn't. Thank you. Who asked about the Christie Nome thing with her purse getting stolen. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second. That could get asked about today too. Thank you so much, Yelena. Thank you, Anna Dreesen, for being a member. Thank you, Matt. Matt says Buttigieg could have shared railroad plans and the right would have demanded his resignation. Thank you, Max, for your support. Thank you, Sako Satala, for being a member. Yes, I am at the end of my trip. I will be back very soon. Thanks to Ringa X, our new member. Thanks to Mark Randy, our new member. Thanks to, hold on a second here, Temi Dank for the gift memberships. That's so nice of you. Make sure you thank somebody if they gave you a gift membership or a gift subscription. Thank you, Temi Dank. Thanks also Bebop and Rocksteady. Who says, the anonymous reports on Hegseth make me go, Now, some of the allegations are not anonymous. Thank you, Bebop and Rocksteady. I appreciate that. And I also want to shout out our moderators. Oh, thanks to Timido for your support on Twitch. Thanks so much to Timido1. I appreciate that, Timido. And thanks to our moderators such as Hearsay and Certainly Dev over on Twitch. Thank you to Kay Lowry Body and Margaret Riley, who are moderating on Facebook. Thanks Sharon Gosselin for subscribing over there, and Kristen McConnell Gates for subscribing, and Margaret and Kay for subscribing on Facebook. Linda Belk, Misha, Larry over on X, and also thanks to Ruth Krafasi, who is moderating right now on YouTube. Thank you so much, Ruth. B says gold prices going down. Gold has gone up a lot in recent days. Captain Macabull says only a clueless buffoon would appoint an incompetent person like Jerome Powell. Trump has no choice but to undo Biden's mistake. Now, Powell first became the Fed chair during Trump's first term. You can see here, Powell, a former investment banker and lawyer, served in the Treasury Department during President Bush's presidency, George H.W. Bush's presidency, and replaced Janet Yellen as Fed chair in 2018 during Trump's first term. He was reappointed by Biden in 2022. You can see from Wikipedia, Powell was elevated to chairman of the Fed by President Trump and was renominated by President Biden. Oh, thanks, by the way, to Bebop and Rocksteady, who thinks Trump should have a big ceremony with Bessent and nominate the next chair. Talk about they will do when he becomes official. Stabilize markets. Shadow Fed. That's what Bebop and Rocksteady says. Again, his term goes until May 2026, Jerome Powell. Oh, maybe we should do a poll question. Let's do a poll question. Our poll questions, oh, and let me actually just make sure I don't have video yet from the White House. Pull this up here. Hold on. I'm just getting set up here so I can show you the video from the press briefing room when I get it. Just give me one moment. All right, let's set up this poll. The poll is, will Trump try to fire Powell? Now, again, Powell's term ends May 2026, so I mean before the end of his term. Will Trump try to fire Powell before Powell's term ends? All right, I just posted that in the YouTube chat. Now I'm going to post it on Twitch. We're doing a poll. I don't know that we've ever asked this question before. Oopsie. All right, I am posting the poll on Twitch right now, and I'm just going to post it on Facebook, and everybody, if you want, will be able to vote on it. Give me one moment here. I just need to throw this up on to Facebook. Yes, no. I think it is now posted everywhere. Okay, let me show you the results. Okay, here are the results of the poll. First of all, I'm going to show you the YouTube results, if this works. Over on YouTube, 70% of you think that Trump will try to fire Powell before his first term ends. That'd be a huge deal if he did. That's 70% of you think that. All right, now how about on Facebook? 64% on Facebook think yes, he will try to do it before the end of Powell's term. And on Twitch, let me show you the results from there. Over on Twitch, the result is 77% or 75% now. Anyways, so the different platforms are fairly close to each other. The majority of you think Trump will try to fire Powell before Powell's term ends, which would be before his term ends, which would be a huge deal. Rab Technologies said there's no try, only do. Jazzy Renee says he can't directly be fired. Well, we just read an article about that about 10 minutes ago that talked about that it was legally unclear. If you missed it, we just read a whole article about this in the Washington Post. Ninja Master thinks if that happens, the stock market, is it iNinja Master? iNinja Master thinks the stock market would crash and stay crashed. Mike Rivers says, of course he'll try and everyone will let him. All right, thanks for voting in the poll. We're getting close to White House briefing time, guys. We're getting very close. Let me just see if I have the video, because I usually get the video a few minutes early from the briefing room. Oh, one other thing I got to do real quick here is let me just make sure something is working. Oh, hold on. You're hearing two of me again. Why are you hearing two of me again? Oh, I know. Oh, one other. Where is that coming from? Good, that's fixed. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. One moment here. Looks like I'm about to get the video from the White House. So I'm just getting set up here so we can bring you the live coverage of the press briefing. Then we'll talk about the press briefing after. Oopsie. This is what I need right here. Okay, do that, get that, put this right here. And then, I know it says Jerome Powell there, but it's not going to keep saying that. Let me get something set up here. Oh, I know what I need to do. Okay, that's good. That's good. Great. This should be here. Why is that all confusing? We don't want that on. Okay, I think, guys, we're actually good to go. I think we're good to go. As soon as I have video of the briefing, I will show it to you, but I think we're ready here. I think we are ready. I don't have the video from the room yet. In the meantime, if I can get to it quickly, I kind of wanted to mention the Gold and also Kristi Noem. So can I get to that really quickly before the briefing? I think both of those could be asked about. Here, so while we're waiting for the briefing, as soon as I get the video, I'll let you know. This is a short article about it. Oops. Homeland Secretary Noem's purse stolen at D.C. restaurant, officials say. This is from AP. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's purse was stolen at a Washington, D.C. restaurant Saturday night, according to department officials. The department, in an email, said Noem had money in her purse to buy gifts for her children and grandchildren and to pay for Easter dinner and other activities. The department, in an email, didn't specify what was stolen, but CNN, which was the first to report the story, said the thief took about $3,000 in cash, as well as Noem's keys, driver's license, passport, checks, makeup bag, medication, and Homeland Security badge. The department said Noem had cash in her purse to pay for gifts, dinner, and other activities for her family on Easter. The Homeland Security Secretary is protected by U.S. Secret Service agents. The Secret Service referred questions about the incident to Homeland Security headquarters. So, now that happened this weekend, Sunday night. So I would not be surprised to see some kind of questions about this. I don't know that the press secretary is going to really answer questions about this. Some of our viewers are questioning why she would have so much cash with her. I mean, you see the reason that was given. Again, the department in an email said Noam had money in her purse to buy gifts for her children and grandchildren and pay for Easter dinner and other activities. Also, again, she's supposed to have some sort of protection with her. But now I don't know what kind of potential security risk it is if somebody can steal her badge, because that apparently happened. I have no idea. Oh, by the way, let me get to this. Look, guys, look what I have for you. Look what I have for you. Oh my gosh. We have video. Do we have audio? We have audio from the White House in video. There we go. One moment here. Let me get, I got to have it say live, the White House. I'm going to say any moment, White House press briefing. What is the topic, Gene W. says? Well, I mean, we've been talking about some things that might be asked about. Pete Hegseth, Jerome Powell, tariffs. Maybe the Kristi Noem story will be asked about. Oh, I think you're right. One of our viewers said that that Timcast, which is Tim Pool's channel, is supposed to be in the new media seat today. Dog S said that. I think you're right. I read something about that. I'd have to look it up to be sure, but I think you're right about that. I'm trying to quickly check. I just don't have it in front of me right now. Maybe I can find it. I think I had an email about it too. Hold on a moment. Yes, so according to the email I have, the White House email, it says that, yes, the 22nd, Tim Pool is supposed to be the new media press representative today. Or not Timcast, which is his channel, I think. I don't know if it'll be him. Okay. Also, can I mention, what is the price of gold right now? It had set a record. It was up over $3,500. Oh, it went down a bit today? It looks like it maybe went down a bit in the last day. Am I right about this? Yeah, Eric Zimmerman said it's about, what, 3,400 right now? It was about 3,500. Lookin says 3,400. So it looks like in the last day or so it's gone down, but it was really going up a lot. Maybe I can find something about that for you while we wait for this. Yeah, so here's really quick. This is what, just so I can just show you the headline here. You'll see the headline in a second. Gold soars to new high as economic uncertainty deepens, says AP. As economic uncertainty deepens, gold prices have notched more and more record highs. That's because gold sales can rise sharply when anxious investors seek safe havens for parking their money. AP says gold's current rally arrives as U.S. President Trump announces new tariffs on economic allies and foes alike, roiling financial markets and threatening to reignite inflation for families and businesses alike. The price, AP says that the price hit a record close Monday of $34.24 per troy ounce. That is about $1,100 higher than a year ago. The price of spot gold is up more than 30% since the start of 2025. By contrast, the stock market has gone down this year. Oh, gold futures reached a record. Hold on. Gold futures reached a record early Tuesday, briefly surpassing the $3,500 mark for the first time before falling closer to $34.44 by mid-morning. And AP says, why is the price of gold going up? A lot of it boils down to uncertainty. Interest in buying gold typically spikes when investors become anxious, and there's been a lot of economic turmoil in recent months. The heaviest uncertainty lies with Trump's escalating trade wars, they say. Also, last week, President Trump renewed threats suggesting he could remove the chair of the Fed, Jerome Powell. Any attempt to unseat Powell, says AP, would likely set off a crisis in global financial markets over fears that a less independent Fed could struggle to keep inflation under control, making investors all the more anxious. Chris N. says, we bought 10 ounces in the 300s. Ron Vera says, wait till gold corrects, then buy, it's coming. SPX will hit 4,700. That's what Ron said. I'm not giving anybody any financial advice. So none of this is coming from me. Hang on one moment here. We're waiting for the White House press briefing to begin any moment now, guys. Any moment now. John Blake said that's an insane price for gold. Skoll, our viewer, thinks it's an opportunity to buy stocks now. Thank you all for tuning into our broadcast today. We will be talking about the briefing, taking some of your comments about it after the briefing. One of our viewers said, Captain Macabull says gold has almost tripled in value since mid-2019. I need to look up a gold price chart. I'm looking at one right now that says that I'm not zooming in, but it looks like around 2019 it looks like that comment is basically correct. Captain MacBull said it has almost tripled in value since mid-2019. I don't know if that's exactly right, because this chart I'm looking at isn't very detailed, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's around correct. Maybe that will be asked about today. Oh, I'm seeing the camera move. The camera just moved. The camera is moving. The camera is moving. By the way, during the briefing, as I often do, a little into the briefing, I will probably switch the camera angle because the White House angle, I have two different feeds, and the White House feed is the one that catches the, usually you can see the reverse angle. You see the questioner. So I'll try to time it best I can, but you might notice the video jump a bit or something. Just for a couple seconds. That's me switching the camera angle. Lookin says we have a camera pan. I'll also see if we have any breaking updates here. Our AZ Intel, who I follow on X, said that Politico had some sort of story. I haven't seen it, about potential trade deals. I'm not seeing it yet. I'll have to look for it and see. That's something that could be asked about, though. Will there be any trade deals announced soon with various countries? 2 minutes until the briefing. We just heard the warning. Did you guys hear that? 2 minutes until the briefing. Guys, we just heard it. 2 minutes until the briefing. Will they talk about J.D. Vance's visit to the Pope in India? It's just a good question. J.D. Vance met with the Pope the day before he died. And maybe just in general, the death of the Pope will be asked about. One of our viewers, Super Guppy, said, I'll take the over. So Super Guppy thinks it'll be more than 2 minutes. I don't have the stock ticker today. I don't believe I have access to the stock ticker today. But currently, I will tell you, the Dow is up 2.3%, S&P 500 up 2.3%, NASDAQ up 2.7%. All right, I think it's about to start. I see the camera just pan to the door. There's the door. The camera is close up on the door. Now we're just looking at the door. One of our viewers says, open the door. Has it been 2 minutes yet? We're still looking at the door. Here we go. It's starting now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. The thoughts and prayers of the entire White House remain with all of the Catholics around the world who are mourning the death of Pope Francis. Pope Francis touched millions of lives and dedicated his life to serving the Catholic Church. As a mark of respect for his memory, President Trump ordered flags be flown at half-staff, and he will be traveling to attend his funeral in Rome. The president will depart from Washington on Friday morning and return to the United States on Saturday evening following the funeral service. I can also confirm the dates of the president's trip to the Middle East. He will travel to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates from May 13th until May 16th. And on Thursday of this week, President Trump will welcome Norwegian Prime Minister at the White House for a working visit. The two leaders will discuss trade and regional security. This will be the 13th head of state visit of President Trump's term already. At the border, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to make America safe again. The Wall Street Journal captured the Trump effect in a recent article. Border crossings grind to a halt as Trump's tough policies take hold. U.S. Customs and Border Protection recorded its lowest southwest border crossings in history in March, and we're seeing the same successes at our northern border. Here's how the New York Post put it. Northern border sector previously overrun by illegal migrants sees dramatic drop in crossings. We haven't seen anyone since November, end quote. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, just 54 illegal aliens were apprehended in the Swanton sector of our northern border, which stretches more than 300 miles in March. This is a drastic 95% drop from the more than 1,000 border crossings that were caught in March 2024. This is a main hotspot area that recorded more than 80% of all apprehensions along the northern border during the 2024 fiscal year. And new reporting from the Washington Times fully highlights the difference in Joe Biden's disgraceful approach to the border compared to President Trump's. Under Trump, border catch and release has dropped 99.99% from worst Biden month. You can't get much better than that. This statistic in particular is astounding. Border Patrol agents caught and immediately released 189,604 illegal aliens into the United States in December 2023 at the height of the Biden border crisis. But under President Trump, Border Patrol agents caught and released only 20 illegal aliens into the U.S. in the month of February. Thanks to President Trump, operational control of the border is becoming a reality, and the administration's historic enforcement measures are yielding huge results. Illegal aliens are finally getting the blunt message. If you cross the border illegally, you will be swiftly deported and never return to the United States of America. Efforts to arrest the criminal illegal alien invaders are continuing to ramp up. ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of predatory sexual assault of a child in Cook County, Illinois. This week, ICE Denver arrested a Mexican national convicted of sexual assault of a child in Houston County, Texas. ICE Miami arrested a Nicaraguan convicted of aggravated battery in Hillsborough County, Florida. ICE Houston arrested a Salvadorian national convicted of attempted sexual assault of a child in Escape in Dallas County, Texas. And ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of aggravated sexual abuse of a minor in Illinois. Despite the Democrats' insane objections, President Trump will continue to embolden law enforcement officers to arrest dangerous legal alien criminals and keep our communities safe. And also thanks to President Trump's America First economic approach, investments continue to pour into our country. Swiss pharmaceuticals company announced they will be investing $50 billion in the United States over the next 5 years, creating 12,000 new quality jobs. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals also agreed to pay Fujifilm Technologies more than $3 billion over the next decade to help manufacture its medicines in the United States. It's a top priority for President Trump to ensure we are producing critical medicines and pharmaceutical drugs right here in America, and that is exactly what we continue to see happen every day. In other news, the Trump administration has announced we will put an end to Joe Biden's illegal student loan bailout attempts. No student loan has been referred to collection since March of 2020. That comes to an end. On May 5th, the Department of Education will resume involuntary collections for borrowers with defaulted federal student loans. The student loan portfolio controlled by the federal government is nearly $1.6 trillion. But fewer than 4 out of 10 borrowers debt cannot be wiped away. It just ends up getting transferred to others. So why should Americans who didn't go to college or went to college and responsibly paid back their loans pay for the student loans of other Americans? The Trump administration will never force taxpayers to pay student loan debts that don't belong to them. Student loan borrowers need clarity, and we're finally giving it to them. Borrowers will now be clearly expected to repay their loans, and those who default on their loan obligations will face involuntary collections. The government can and will collect defaulted federal student loan debt by withholding money from borrowers, tax refunds, federal pensions, and even their wages. America is $36 trillion in debt. We must get our fiscal house in order and restore common sense to our country. If you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. It's very simple. President Trump will not kick the can down the road anymore. Before we open it up to questions today, I want to commend our pool photographer who is in the room with us today. ABC News photojournalist Melissa Young is retiring after 44 incredible years on the job, covering here at the White House. Melissa, congratulations. You have the largest round of applause I've ever heard in this room. So there's something we can all agree on, and you've had an incredible career here covering the White House. So congratulations to you, and we hope you enjoy retirement. I'm sure you will. And everybody else in the room will be very jealous of you as you're enjoying your rest. All right, let's get to it. We have an individual in our new media seat today. His name is Tim Pool. He's a political commentator and a media entrepreneur with millions of followers, a very big platform. Currently hosts Timcast IRL, a daily news and discussions show, and The Culture War, a weekly podcast exploring cultural and political issues. His programs feature in-depth conversations on topics such as free speech, censorship, identity politics, and societal change, often engaging with a diverse range of guests. He's in Washington today because we are also hosting a local media row across the street in the Eisenhower Building, which is a testament to our commitment to bring new voices into the White House to cover the president and this administration. So, Tim, why don't you kick us off today?
Yes. Many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by two different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland Man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on the unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is one of the reasons we have you in here, and there's many new faces in this room in comparison to the previous administrations. We want to welcome all viewpoints into this room. We welcome unbiased journalists who really care about the truth and the facts and the accuracy, and you rightfully pointed out the Maryland Man story, which I, from this podium, when The Atlantic published it, on that very first day, I came to this podium and said, this is wrong. The press in this room have this story wrong, and we have seen more and more evidence come to the table that we have had all along. We were always right. The president was always on the right side of this issue to deport this illegal criminal from our community. And it is despicable to see the media continue to refer to this individual as someone who is just a peaceful man living his life in Maryland. This was and always has been an illegal criminal, an MS-13 gang member, and a designated foreign terrorist. And the administration maintains our position to deport these individuals from our community. So thank you for being here, Tim. It's great to see you. Thank you. Dasha, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. I have two questions, one on the Pentagon and another on the economy. You said on Fox News that the entire Pentagon is working against Secretary Hegseth, but the people who were fired were Hegseth's own guys. So how do you square that, and what do you say to concerns that that's bad management?
They were Pentagon employees who leaked against their boss to news agencies in this room, and it's been clear since day one from this administration that we are not going to tolerate individuals who leak to the mainstream media, particularly when it comes to sensitive information. And the Secretary of Defense is doing a tremendous job, and he is bringing monumental change to the Pentagon. And there's a lot of people in this city who reject monumental change, and I think, frankly, that's why we've seen a smear campaign against the Secretary of Defense since the moment that President Trump announced his nomination before the United States Senate. Let me reiterate, the President stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth and the change that he is bringing to the Pentagon, and the results that he's achieved thus far speak for themselves.
Is there an FBI investigation into the leaks? The Secretary said that these people would be prosecuted, so is the FBI investigating?
You'd have to ask the FBI, you have to ask the Department of Justice on what they plan to do, but certainly we take leaks with the utmost seriously across this administration. You've seen people fired from the Department of Homeland Security. The President has made it clear it's an unacceptable behavior.
And on the economy, Caroline, Peter Navarro said that it's perfectly possible to do 90 deals in 90 days. We haven't seen one just yet. How soon might we see a deal, and what evidence can you share that progress is being made in these trade negotiations?
Sure. Well, I spoke to our entire trade team this morning. There is a lot of progress being made. We now have 18 proposals on paper that have been brought to the trade team. Again, these are proposals on paper that countries have proposed to the Trump administration and to our government. You have Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, Ambassador Greer, NEC Director Hassett, and Peter Navarro, the entire trade team, meeting with 34 countries this week alone. We are moving at Trump speed to ensure these deals are made on behalf of the American worker and the American people. And just yesterday, it seemed to get a little bit lost in the news, and I think it's a disservice to the American public that it did. The Vice President announced terms of reference for a trade deal with India. That is a big deal. We know when we look at the numbers, the monetary trade barriers and the non-monetary trade barriers from India, they have been ripping off the United States and American workers for a very long time. So the fact that the Vice President with Prime Minister Modi on that trip in India announced these terms of reference, which is essentially a framework to move the ball forward to sign a good trade deal between our two nations, is great progress, and it speaks to the work ethic and the real labor that's being put into this effort by the President's trade team. Sure. Go ahead.
Does the proposals that you talk about, is that enough to extend the pauses on these reciprocal tariffs, or does the President need to see, these deals inked and signed to offer any sort of additional extension beyond the 90 days?
Well, look, ask me in July when the deadline hits. I know I'll be answering those questions from all of you in this room. There's a lot of time left, and the President's trade team is working, again, at Trump speed as quickly as they can to ensure that these deals can be made.
Are any of those conversations yet with China happening?
I actually do have something to share on that. I asked the President about this before coming out here, and he wanted me to share with all of you that we're doing very well in respect to a potential trade deal with China. As I mentioned, there have now been 18 proposals in more than 100 countries around the world who are wanting to make a deal with the United States of America, and the President and the administration are setting the stage for a deal with China. So we feel everyone involved wants to see a trade deal happen, and the ball is moving in the right direction. Sure.
Setting the stage for a deal with China, what does that mean? Has the President spoken directly with Xi yet?
I don't have anything to read out on a direct talk between the President and President Xi, but we will continue to keep you updated.
And Secretary Bessent reportedly today told investors that this trade standoff with China he expects will be de-escalating soon because, as he described it, reportedly the situation is unsustainable. Is the President considering taking steps to de-escalate the situation with China?
Again, I just read you words directly from the President of the United States. Those are moments ago. That's where his head is at right now.
Caroline.
Sure.
Caroline, I had two questions, one on immigration and one on China. First on immigration. Roughly how many illegal immigrants and aliens do we have in our country, and how many does the administration plan on deporting?
Sure. Well, you'd have to ask the Department of Homeland Security for a specific number, but we suspect it's definitely in the millions, perhaps upwards of 20 million people that were allowed into the country illegally by the previous administration. And the President and his team are focused on deporting as many as we possibly can, and they are moving as quickly as possible. The President's team has made it clear we need more funding from Congress to do more. We need more ICE agents out on the ground doing this very important work. And we also need rogue district court judges to stop acting as judicial activists, trying to block the administration from deporting illegal criminals from our nation's interior. The American public elected the president to do this, and he's following through with that promise.
And we have over 250,000 Chinese nationals in our country right now on student visas. Does the administration believe there's any national security concern when it comes to those over 250,000 Chinese nationals in our country?
Well, as you know, when it comes to foreign visas, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke visas of those who we feel are acting in an adversarial way to our foreign policy interests here in the United States. He has that authority according to the Immigration and Nationality Act. So I would defer you to the State Department for any individual case, but they are looking at individuals who are given the privilege of being on a visa in our country, and if they are acting, again, adversarial to our foreign policy interests, their visa can be revoked, and they should be aware of that. Sure, go ahead. Yes. I'm calling on you.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
Over the last few weeks, several countries have warned their citizens about travel to the U.S., and the Department of Commerce's own stats know that from a lot of countries, the number of visitors is falling. Does the White House have any message for people that might be reconsidering business or tourism travel to the U.S.?
Where did you see that report?
With the statistics coming from the Department of Commerce.
Said what? It's hard to hear you. Sorry.
That visitors from a lot of countries have fallen in the last 3 months.
I'd have to look at that report to comment on the merits of it. I think most people around the world recognize the United States of America is a great place to do business. It's a beautiful place to visit, and they should certainly come here because it's a much safer country than it was 4 years ago under the previous president. Libby, good to see you.
A question about this upcoming announcement from HHS to ban food dyes. During the first week of the administration, the FDA announced that it's pulling its plan to ban menthol cigarettes. So 2 questions for you. How do you square a ban on menthol cigarettes being pulled and then announcing this ban on food dyes? And then how does the president feel about this upcoming ban that RFK is going to announce?
Sure. Well, look, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the president nominated him because he trusts him to make this country healthy again. It's not just a slogan. It really is a movement that has broken ground across the country. There's millions of people who believe in RFK Jr., Secretary Kennedy, and what he's doing. I don't want to get ahead of HHS with this historic announcement later and the details of it, but obviously the Secretary feels that he has reason and evidence to announce the ban on artificial dyes later, and I'll let him speak to that this afternoon. Phil.
The president started the process of reclassifying more than 50,000 federal employees as Schedule F. We've already seen him march through a number of government agencies. I'm curious, should we expect mass firings, or is this a case-by-case approach, a scalpel or a sledgehammer?
Well, look, as you saw on Friday, the president put out a statement about it. The Office of Personnel Management reclassified workers. They're now called scheduled policy/career. And all the president is trying to do is ensure that federal workers are being held accountable for corrupt behavior. If they are engaging in corruption as a government worker, they should no longer have their job. I think that's pretty common sense. He also believes that bureaucrats should be acting in accordance to the will of the American public, who duly elected this president. Not just this president, but all future presidents. If you work for the government, you should be adhering to the will of the American public and advancing the administration's goals and interests. And if you are not doing that, then you should go find another job whose interests you align with. So as for specific firings, I would defer you to the specific agencies, but the president in this move and Office of Personnel Management, it will make it easier to get rid of rogue bureaucrats who are engaging in corruption.
And then another quick question about
Sure.
Google, real quick. A federal court ruled last Thursday that Google's dominance of online advertising and ad tech markets violated U.S. antitrust laws. I know the president has spoken to a number of folks in big tech, and Google CEO was even at his inauguration. I'm curious, what is the president's reaction to that court ruling?
I'll have to ask him, and I'll get back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Some economic questions for you. Kevin Hassett has been a key economic advisor to the president in both of his terms. In 2022...
And he still is.
And he still is.
He was just in my office.
Absolutely. In 2022, he said that the independence of the Fed is super important. That's a direct quote. Is that something that the president subscribes to? Does he still believe in the independence of the Federal Reserve?
Well, look, I think the president has made his position on the Fed and on Powell quite clear. The president believes that they have been making moves and taking action in the name of politics rather in the name of what's right for the American economy. The president has the right to express his displeasure with the Fed, and he has the right to say he believes believes interest rates should be lower. He believes Americans should be able to borrow money cheaper than they currently are right now. And I also spoke to Kevin Hassett about the Fed as well, and he has called into question the Fed's independence and whether they are actually doing things, again, out of the best interest of the economy, or are they doing it for partisan reasons. The president wants to see interest rates lower. He has made that quite clear.
We've also seen, if I may, I'm sorry, one more, Karoline, just about, I said 2 economic questions, about the dollar. We've seen the dollar at multi-year lows versus the euro and other currencies around the world. Is it the administration's policy for a strong dollar? How does it view the dollar versus other currencies around the world?
The president wants to see the dollar remain as the world's reserve currency for our long-term fiscal stability and our economic growth. He's been quite clear about that. Sure.
2 questions.
And then to the woman behind you, who I haven't seen before, welcome. Go ahead, Mary.
Earth Day and then the Supreme Court, if that's okay.
That's right. It's Earth Day.
Yes.
Happy Earth Day, everyone.
I saw the president truthing about the garbage pileup from China in the Pacific, and then I believe Lee Zeldin is headed to San Diego to investigate the pile of sewage from Mexico. Can you speak to what the White House has planned for Earth Day and anything in that arena?
Sure. I do have points from the EPA. Administrator Zeldin's doing a fantastic job, and they are always sharing their accomplishments with the White House, which we very much appreciate. He will be traveling, I believe he's in California today, for sewage situation. Here you go. Administrator Zeldin met with his Mexican counterpart to discuss steps Mexico needs to take to ensure the water entering the United States is clean and safe. And he's holding a press conference in San Diego today with elected officials and local stakeholders on the Tijuana River sewage crisis. I would also add from the president himself, he has always maintained he wants America to have the cleanest air and the cleanest water. And we want to do what's right for our environment and for our earth. And a lot of that is making sure that we have clean and sustainable energy, and we know that we produce natural gas cleaner and more efficiently than any country in this world, and the president wants to see that continue.
Thank you. And then on the Supreme Court, I know the court is hearing a case dealing with parents who don't want their kids having to read gender ideology books in schools. Can you comment on that case and what the Trump administration hopes to see come from that?
Sure. We hope the Supreme Court will do the right thing, and the president has been very clear. He stands on the side of parental rights, and he believes strongly that parents should have a greater say in their children's education and the content, if you will, that children are being exposed to in our public school system. Sure. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you.
Hi.
I'm Karoline Leavitt with World News Group. The administration ended some temporary protections for Afghans, including several hundred Christians who have been punished by the Taliban. Is the president considering any exceptions for Afghans who could face death or torture if they return to their home country?
So let's just be clear about one thing. We didn't end that proactively. It expired, and it's because the previous administration illegally paroled millions of people, or hundreds of thousands of people, I'm sorry, into the country, and then gave them temporary protective status, which again is a temporary status. It's not a permanent status in this country. And if there are individuals here who came in through the Biden administration who want to claim asylum, there is a legal process to do that, and those cases will be adjudicated by a judge on a case-by-case basis. We have a legal immigration process in this country for a reason, and all this administration is trying to do is effectuate that. Reagan.
Thank you, Caroline. I have 2 questions for you
Sure.
on immigration. March deportation numbers were down slightly from the same time period last year. SCOTUS recently ordered a pause on deporting Trinidad Tobago members with the Alien Enemies Act. I'm curious what other tools the administration is looking at to boost those deportation numbers.
Sure. Well, we are obviously complying with the court's order. However, it was a temporary pause. The Supreme Court basically said, sit tight, and they will follow up with an order, and we're confident that the Supreme Court will rule on the side of law and recognize the president absolutely has the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our nation's interior under the Alien Enemies Act. We feel very strongly about that, and we're confident the courts will side with the president and his executive authority. As for deportations, we continue to deport illegal criminals under Title VIII, which is an immigration authority given to our Border Patrol agents and the Department of Homeland Security to deport illegal criminals from this country. And the administration continues to do that at record speed as quickly as they can with the resources that they have.
They recently dropped charges against the MS-13 leader caught in Woodbridge, Virginia, with the idea that this will expedite the deportation process. Does the administration plan to drop charges against other criminal illegals to speed along the deportation process?
You'd have to ask the Department of Justice. Obviously, that's within their purview, and I can't speak for them. However, it is our goal to deport as many illegal criminals and aliens from our country as we possibly can, as quickly as we can. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. We've heard so much about this Saudi trip planning, and the president's mentioned it himself before, but I don't think we've ever heard on the record what he hopes to achieve in Saudi Arabia and what the purpose of the trip is.
Sure. Well, the president looks forward to this. It was supposed to be his first foreign visit, but of course now he is going to Rome this weekend to honor the Pope and attend the funeral. The president looks to strengthen the ties between the United States and these countries in which he will be visiting. He'll be having many bilateral meetings and talks, and we look forward to the trip and hope to see many of you there.
And the meetings in London this week, do they have any nexus with the plans in Saudi Arabia?
I can't speak to that. However, I do have an update on meetings when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. I was just in the Oval Office with the President, Steve Witkoff, and they wanted everybody to know that the negotiations continue. We feel, again, we're hopefully moving in the right direction, and the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, will be heading to Russia again later this week to continue talks with Vladimir Putin.
Is that why Rubio is not heading to London? Is he accompanying Witkoff to Moscow?
I can't speak for the Secretary of State's travel schedule. I'd defer you to the Department of State.
And then more broadly, just about the peace agreement, the talks that are ongoing. Secretary Rubio had said that if things don't go the right way, that the U.S. might need to take a step back. What does stepping back look like? Is that a step back from brokering peace, or would that imply a broader withdrawal from U.S. support for Ukraine and the war?
Look, I think it would be unwise for me to broadcast that from this podium. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make, but he's made it very clear he wants to see peace, he wants to see this war end, and he wants to stop the killing on both sides of this war, and he's been very clear about that for quite some time, and he has grown frustrated with both sides of this war, and he's made that very known.
Caroline,
Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. Last week, the president talked about nonprofit groups, specifically taking on Crew, and he hinted that there could be further actions taken against nonprofits. Does the White House have any plans for any sort of actions against NGOs, nonprofits, or other similar groups? Is any of that coming up? Is that being worked on at this time?
I'll have to check in with our policy team and get back to you. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Travis Gilmore with the Epoch Times. Are some colleges using taxpayer funds to further political agendas? And what is the administration's response to Harvard's lawsuit?
Sure. Well, the president has made it quite clear that it's Harvard who has put themselves in the position to lose their own funding by not obeying federal law. And we expect all colleges and universities who are receiving taxpayer funds to abide by federal law. It's quite simple. And the president made it clear he's not going to tolerate violations of federal law. He's not going to tolerate illegal harassment and violence towards Jewish American students or students of any faith on our campuses across the country. And so we will be responding to the lawsuit in court. And again, it's quite simple. If you want federal dollars, obey federal law.
And just a quickly follow up on China. Any response to reports that China is targeting U.S. trade allies with potential retaliatory measures for supporting U.S. agendas?
I think the numbers and the sheer number of countries that have reached out to the United States and reached out to this administration to cut good trade deals speak for themselves. The entire world knows that they need the United States of America and they want to do business here, and so we'll stay focused on cutting good trade deals on behalf of the American worker. Stephanie.
Thank you, Caroline. Can you give us any additional details from the president's call with Netanyahu today?
I did speak to the president about it. It was a good call. They spoke particularly about Iran and the negotiations that are underway with Iran and the United States. And the president has made it very clear repeatedly, but I'll reiterate, there is no daylight between the United States of America and the state of Israel. He stands strongly behind our ally. He's made it quite clear when it comes to Iran that we want to see a deal, and Iran has a choice to make. But the president has also made it very clear, and he reiterated that in his call with Prime Minister Netanyahu today about the need for Iran to never obtain a nuclear weapon. I do have one more bit of news that I would like to share with all of you. Just give me 1 second to find it. And it's in regards to the terrorist attack that took place in India earlier today. The president has been briefed by the National Security Advisor, and he's being kept up to speed as more facts are learned. What we know already is dozens were killed and even more were injured in a brutal terrorist attack in a popular tourist location in South Kashmir. President Trump will be speaking with Prime Minister Modi as soon as he possibly can to express his heartfelt condolences for those lost, and our prayers are with those injured and our nation's support for our ally India. These types of horrific events by terrorists are why those of us who work for peace and stability in the world continue our mission. So we'll give you a readout of that call later this afternoon. There's a lot of work to be had. You may hear from the president later this afternoon as well, and we'll see you all later. Thank you.
Were any Americans among those dual American citizens?
So she said you may hear from President Trump later this afternoon. All right, that was the White House press briefing. I'd like to get some comments from you guys. What did you think? We'll read some comments from you. And regarding that, she mentioned an attack in India. I did want to show you something about that real quick. Hold on a second here. Right here. Oops, you'll see it on your screen in a second. Indian police say gunmen kill at least 20 tourists at a Kashmir resort. That is from AP. Gunmen shot dead at least 20 tourists at a resort in Indian-controlled Kashmir, police said. Oops.
President of the United States, J.D. Vance.
Sorry, that's a different video. I was reading the India story. Police described the incident as a terror attack and blamed militants fighting against Indian rule. At least 4 gunmen, according to police, at least 4 gunmen whom they described as militants fired at dozens of tourists from close range. Most of the tourists killed were Indian, the officers said. The gunfire coincided with the visit to India of Vice President J.D. Vance, who called it a devastating terrorist attack. President Trump said on social media, deeply disturbing news out of Kashmir. The U.S. stands strong with India against terrorism. Oh, and in terms of where this attack was at, it was at, hold on a second here. It was at the Bizarin Meadow. The Bizarin Meadow, some 3 miles from the disputed region's resort town of Pahalgam. And the article from the AP says the meadow in Pahalgam is a popular destination surrounded by snow-capped mountains and dotted with pine forests. It is visited by hundreds of tourists each day as Kashmir, known for Himalayan foothills and exquisitely decorated houseboats, has become a major domestic tourist destination. It has drawn millions of visitors who enjoy a strange peace kept by ubiquitous security checkpoints, armored vehicles, and patrolling soldiers. Nuclear-armed rivals, India and Pakistan, each administer part of Kashmir, but both claim the territory in its entirety. Kashmir has seen a spate of targeted killings of Hindus. Tensions have been simmering as India has intensified its counterinsurgency operations, but despite tourists flocking to Kashmir in huge numbers, they have not been targeted. I guess that has changed. Militants in the Indian portion of Kashmir have been fighting New Delhi's rule since 1989. Many Muslim Kashmiris support the rebels' goal of uniting the territory either under Pakistani rule or as an independent country. India insists the Kashmiri militancy is Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. Pakistan denies the charge, and many Kashmiris consider it a legitimate freedom struggle. So I just wanted to mention that because that was talked about at the end of the White House press briefing. All right, other comments about the White House press briefing. Oops, it shouldn't say White House holds press briefing post coverage. It should say White House press briefing post coverage. The White House press secretary, the White House press briefing, the press secretary did say that President Trump supported Pete Hegseth. That was asked about. Also, they said that she said that the Trump administration was getting closer to trade deals with countries like China and India. No trade deals announced yet. President Trump is going to the funeral, the Pope's funeral. We heard that in the press briefing. He will be heading to the funeral, and that is this weekend. So we heard that. Also, Jesse's girl, our viewer, said she took a lot of questions. Also, the press secretary said that there was still negotiations ongoing with Russia and Ukraine. And we'll have to see what happens, if anything, with Pete Hegseth. So we were talking about this before the briefing. But this news came out about, one piece of news that came out was there's been reporting from multiple outlets that Pete Hegseth posted sensitive information about an upcoming attack on the Houthis in a second Signal chat. You can see here this story from AP. Hegseth pulled airstrike info from secure military channel for Signal posts, NBC News reports. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth pulled the airstrike information he posted into Signal chats with his wife, brother, and dozens of others from he pulled that information from a secure communications channel used by U.S. Central Command, raising new questions as to whether the embattled Pentagon head leaked classified info over an open, unsecured network. NBC News first reported that the launch times and bomb drop times of U.S. warplanes that were about to strike Houthi targets in Yemen, details that multiple officials have said is highly classified, were taken from a secure U.S. Central Command communications. A person familiar with the second chat confirmed that to the AP. The information posted in the second chat was identical to the sensitive operations details shared in the first chat, which included members of the President Trump's National Security Council. The person said it is the second chat involving Hegseth to be called into question. This is the second chat where Hegseth posted the Yemen airstrike information. The first leaked Signal chat accidentally included the editor of The Atlantic and has caused an Inspector General investigation in the Defense Department. Hegseth has not directly acknowledged that he set up the second chat, which had more than a dozen people in it, including his wife, his lawyer, and his brother Phil Hegseth, who was hired as a senior liaison to the Pentagon for the Department of Homeland Security. Instead, the Secretary, Hegseth, has blamed the disclosure of the second Signal chat on leaks from disgruntled former staff. Hegseth has aggressively denied that the information he posted was classified. Regardless of that, Signal is a commercially available app that is encrypted, but is not a government network and not authorized to carry classified information. Pete Hegseth today told Fox News, "I said repeatedly, nobody is texting war plans. I look at war plans every day. What was shared over Signal then and now, however you characterize it, was informal, unclassified coordinations for media coordinations and other things. That's what I've said from the beginning." This comes as Hegseth has shaken up much of his inner circle. He is said to have become increasingly isolated and suspicious about whom he can trust, says AP, and is relying on an increasingly smaller and smaller circle of people. In the last week, he has fired or transferred 6 of his inner support circle, including Hegseth aide Dan Caldwell, the chief of staff to the Deputy Defense Secretary Stephen Feinberg, Colin Carroll, and Hegseth's deputy chief of staff, Darren Selnick. Those 3 were escorted out of the Pentagon as the department hunts down leaks of inside information. And in his Fox and Friends interview today, an agitated Hegseth accused those staff, whom he had worked with and known for years, of attempting to leak and sabotage the administration. But in the press briefing today, the White House continued to maintain that Trump is standing behind Pete Hegseth. Tony Word, our viewer, says Hegseth has been caught again. The first one, I will give him a pass. The second Signal chat mess is entirely on him. Army Vet says diversion from Democrats trying to bring back that banger from El Salvador. John says transparency even with our enemies. By the way, I want to say a quick thanks here to, I owe a thank you to, hold on a second here. FKU Bigness. Thanks, FKU Bigness, who says the introduction of new reporters every week with softballs that favor the administration is disgusting. That's what FKU Bigness said about the press briefing. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Harper Ann, our member. A bunch of you commented that Tim Pool was in the media seat today and asked a question. Tim Pool, a well-known social media broadcaster who does news videos. Thank you, Harper Ann. Thank you, NY Prepper. Or is it NV Prepper? NV Prepper, I think it is actually, for becoming a member. Thanks, PZ Papazulu, for your support. Thanks, Dennis Kennedy, for becoming a member. Thanks, Braden E. Nelson, for being a member. Thanks, 2 Dog Mom, for becoming a member. Thanks, Bill Tin, for your support. Bill Tin thinks Darth Powell needs to be removed from the Council of the Shadow Fed and markets will be liberated. Thanks, Bill Tin, for your support. Also, I want to shout out our moderators. Oh, thanks, Ascertainment, for your support. And Farquad8067 for subscribing on Twitch. And Lookin4777 for subscribing on Twitch. Thank you. And shout out to our moderators. We have Good Luck Duck, Matthew Kohai 3, Surly Dev, and we have Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley on Facebook. And I know Ruth has been moderating for us, Ruth Krafasi over on YouTube. Okay. Let's see. Also, thanks to Kellen for your support. I really appreciate that, Kellen. Hey, thanks, Kellen. Kellen, you can message me if you want at agendafreetv@gmail.com. Agendafreetv@gmail.com, Kellen. But thank you so much, Kellen. I appreciate that. That is the email I just gave is the channel email. Thank you also, Shelley, for your support from Europe. Shelley. Bell Donala, our viewer, says, Jerome Powell moves too slow. He reads old data to make decisions. One thing that I should mention about Jerome Powell. We talked in the pre-show about how President Trump has been quite critical lately of Jerome Powell. There's speculation as to whether he might try to remove Jerome Powell before Jerome Powell's term as Fed chair ends in May of 2026. It's an uncertain legal question whether he would be allowed to do that. Could very well end up in court if he tries to do it. And today, I know that, I'm trying to think of the exact answer, but I know that during her answer to a question about Jerome Powell, what was it? Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary, said that there were concerns in the White House that there were concerns in the White House that Jerome Powell was acting for political reasons. So I know President Trump has said that he believes the Fed has been acting for political reasons. And Trump in a recent True Social post, what did he say? We showed you this earlier. But he said that he alleged that the Fed had lowered interest rates to try to get Biden and Kamala elected. And then she also said that, I think she said Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was questioning whether the Fed was acting with political objectives first in mind, which was interesting to hear. Where is the Jerome Powell post? I'll show you that again. Here, this was the post from President Trump yesterday. Preemptive cuts in interest rates are being called for by many, he says. With energy costs way down, food prices, including Biden's egg disaster, substantially lower, and most other things trending down, there is virtually no inflation. With these costs trending so nicely downward, just what I predicted they would do, there can be almost no inflation, but there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates. Lowers interest rates. Now, Europe has already lowered 7 times. Powell has always been too late, except when it came to the election period, when he lowered in order to help sleepy Joe Biden, later Kamala, get elected. How did that work out? Now, I forget, she certainly did not say that Trump was getting ready to get rid of Powell. I forget her exact answer to that question. I would have to look it up here. I don't remember where that was in the time code. But in her answer, she continued the White House questioning of Powell and suggesting that the Fed is being run by political considerations. Trying to pull this up here for myself so I can see it. Where is here?
This, and he's following through with reporting.
I'm trying to find that exact question.
Soon because it's stage for a deal with China. So
without making you guys wait for 10 years to have me find it.
Put into this effort by the president's trade team. Talk between.
I think it was in the middle somewhere.
As quickly as possible.
Chinese nationals.
Immigration and that.
The Department of Commerce's own program, the Department of
place to visit. Just to ban. And then how does the broken ground across the country details of it? But
give me one moment. See if I can find it here.
What the president is trying to do is ensure in corruption as its goals and interests.
Last there is the president economic.
Powell.
I found it. Here's the question. I have it.
You're welcome. John.
Here's the question about Jerome Powell and what Karoline Leavitt had to say. Here it is. This is a replay from before. I'm going to play it for you right now.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Some economic questions for you. Kevin Hassett has been a key economic advisor to the president in both of his terms. In 2022...
And he still is.
And he still is.
He was just in my office.
Absolutely. In 2022, he said that the independence of the Fed is super important. That's a direct quote. Is that something that the president subscribes to? Does he still believe in the independence of the Federal Reserve?
Well, look, I think the president has made his position on the Fed and on Powell quite clear. The president believes that they have been making moves and taking action in the name of politics rather in the name of what's right for the American economy. The president has the right to express his displeasure with the Fed, and he has the right to say he believes interest rates should be lower. He believes Americans should be able to borrow money cheaper than they currently are right now. And I also spoke to Kevin Hassett about the Fed as well, and he has called into question the Fed's independence and whether they are actually doing things, again, out of the best interest of the economy, or are they doing it for partisan reasons. The president wants to see interest rates lower. He has made that quite clear.
We've also seen, if I may, one more, Caroline, just about, I said 2 economic questions.
Anyways, so she didn't say he was thinking of firing him, but that was certainly the White House giving a quite critical answer about the Fed. So we'll have to see where that goes. We did a poll in the pre-show, and the majority of you thinks Trump will try to find. The majority of people who voted in the poll think that Trump is going to try to fire Powell before May of 2026. And by the way, the current market is Dow Jones up about 2% today, S&P 500 up about 2%, NASDAQ up about 2%. Fred Flintstone thinks it sounded like a threat. Are you talking about that, Fred, or something else? Fred might have been talking about something else too. Hey, thanks UV Lightning for becoming a member. Oh, you know the other thing I forgot to mention? This is an interesting story, something to keep an eye on. It came up during the press briefing, and I forgot to mention it in the pre-show, and it's quite an interesting story. The student loans question. Where is that? So this is a significant change happening here. With administration policy on student loans. Student loans in default will be sent for collection. Here's what to know for borrowers. So the Trump administration has announced that they're going to start collecting on, I believe, millions of student loans. And the collecting will involve things like just taking wages out of people's paychecks or pulling federal money that might have been federal payments that might have been sent to these people. Starting next month, says AP, the Education Department says student loans that are in default will be referred for collections. Roughly 5.3 million borrowers are in default on their federal student loans, 5.3 million, and soon could be subject to having their wages garnished. So literally it gets taken out of your paycheck before you get your paycheck. Referrals for collection have been put on hold since March 2020 because of the COVID pandemic, when the U.S. government also paused federal student loan payments and interest accrual as a temporary relief measure. That grace period was extended multiple times by the Biden administration and ended in October. The Education Department says it will soon begin sending notices on collection efforts, but there are options for borrowers to get out of default. Here are some things to know. How will involuntary collection work? Beginning on May 5th, the Education Department will begin involuntary collection through the Treasury Department's offset program. Borrowers who have student loans in default will receive communication from federal student aid in the upcoming weeks with information about their options. Involuntary collection means the government can garnish wages, intercept tax refunds, and seize portions of Social Security checks and other benefit payments to go towards paying back the loan. Okay? What's the difference between delinquent and default in my student loans? A student loan becomes delinquent when a borrower doesn't make a payment 90 days after the due date. If you continue to be delinquent on your ban for 270 days, or roughly 9 months, then it becomes default. While being delinquent affects your credit score, going to default has more serious consequences, such as wage garnishment. If you fall behind on a loan, one of these student loans, for 270 days, the loan appears on your credit report as being in default. Once a loan is in default, the government will send the borrower into collections. What can I do right now if my student loan is in default? The Education Department is recommending borrowers visit its default resolution group to make a monthly payment, enroll in an income-driven repayment plan, or sign up for loan rehabilitation. Betsy Mayotte, president of the Institute for Student Loan Advisors, recommends loan rehabilitation as an option. Borrowers in default must ask their loan servicer to be placed in such a program. Typically, servicers ask for proof of income and expenses to calculate a payment amount. Once the borrower has paid on time for 9 months in a row, they are taken out of default. A loan rehabilitation can only be done once. What does forbearance mean? A student loan forbearance is a temporary pause on your student loan payments granted to borrowers who are experiencing financial difficulties. To apply for forbearances, borrowers must contact their loan servicer. Borrowers can be granted forbearance by their loan servicer for up to 12 months, but interest will continue to accrue during this period. Anyways, so I don't know. This is not my field. I don't know how many people will start having their wages garnished and their Social Security checks withheld and other federal payments withheld. But again, roughly 5.3 million borrowers are in default on their federal student loans. And starting next month, the education says the student loans that are in default will be referred for collections. And involuntary collection means the government can garnish wages, intercept tax refunds, and seize portions of Social Security checks and other benefit payments. So we will have to see what happens with this. Assaulted Rabbit says it's about time they pay their obligations. Whereas Channeling Gary says Trump needs more money to fund his weekend golf trips to Florida. Wow. Thank you, Channeling Gary, for your support, by the way. Now, Roger Shoemaker, our viewer, thinks this is not going to help the economy. It's an interesting question, how many people are going to be impacted here and what kind of financial impact is it going to have on them. Our viewer, Assault Rabbit, says it's great news that people are going to have this money taken back if they're in default. Red Rose says, pay their own loan, I paid mine, then stop applying for money. Revin thinks it might cause a bunch of Trump supporters to go against Trump. Reuters said about this, the U.S. Department of Education said on Monday, it will resume collecting federal student repayments from borrowers in default after a pause of more than 5 years. This will impact more than 5 million borrowers who are in default, adding that another 4 million are late in making payments. Yes, it's a very good question. I don't know how that's going to, how many people exactly it's going to impact and what kind of economic impact it will have on them and on the economy as a whole. It's a good question. I don't know. So it seemed like a very important story that was a little bit under the radar. So I wanted to mention that. Let's see here. This is an article from the Washington Post about this. What to know as collections restart. Did you default on your student loans? And Betsy Mayotte, who is the president and founder of Student Loan Advisors, said Betsy Mayotte is worried about those living paycheck to paycheck and rely on Social Security. She said, a student debt is not only a young person's problem, and the older that people get, the higher likelihood they will have of defaulting. Anyways, that's something I'll be keeping an eye on. Our viewer, a comment from a viewer. Our viewer, Nana of 9 Munchkins, says, it's affecting me having a stupid Parent Plus loan. Dumb, 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 I digress. The interest rate is ridiculous, over 9%. CC says, where is Trump getting his information that the price of eggs is going down so much? Robert Law says, pay your outstanding loan. Back in my day, I paid my loans off as I was in college by working in the library a few days a week. Should have asked to clean dishes in the cafeteria as repayment to the school. Just want everything handed to them. Sign of the Times says college loans are a lot larger than what boomers had, even inflation adjusted. Many student loans are 6 figures for 4 years. Amelie says, it's amazing how the left can make paying back a loan political. Jay Nosewich says college should be free to anyone who wants it. Red Rose says paying your own debt is a step as an adult. By the way, thanks to our member, Mary McHugh, too. Roger Shoemaker says college tuition was cheaper back in the day, was much lower. All right, guys, let me do a last check here for news updates. But if you missed the White House press briefing, you can go back and check it out. We covered it. It was on the channel. And you can rewind and watch it if you did not see it. I am just about wrapping up my stay here in Lima, Peru, which has been fantastic. But I've also been able to cover a lot of news while I'm here, which is good too. That's why I bring my stuff with me. If there's news later today, big news or tonight, I will come back on the air and I will cover it. But I think I'm going to start wrapping up our live coverage for today, and I really appreciate you joining us for our coverage of the press briefing. And I will, as usual, post updates when I'm not on the air to my X account, which is @Lookner. You can follow me there for breaking news updates @Lookner on X. And if you like live news coverage without an agenda, breaking news coverage, subscribe and follow us here, Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. And make sure you turn the notifications on. I'd highly recommend that because I can't tell when big news is going to suddenly happen. I'm going to race on the air. So if you don't want to miss a stream, we have a free notification system. We do it through Discord. It works awesome. It's really reliable, and it's free. So you can sign up. The link to sign up for the notifications is the mods will post it in the chat, and also you can find it in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook. And by the way, speaking of my trip, I do have a personal channel where I have been doing some videos. In addition to news videos, I do some other videos, personal videos, and live streams on my personal channel. And if you're interested in seeing any of my videos that I've done here, who knows, maybe I'll do a couple more live streams while I'm here. I did one last night, actually, which was fun. But that is called Lookner on YouTube and Looknerd with a D on Twitch. So hold on, I'll show you. This is the channel on YouTube, Lookner. And there's the live stream from last night right here. I try some sandwiches in Lima, Peru. So feel free to check that out if you want. It's called Looknerd with a D on Twitch. So those have been fun to do. Hey, big thanks to our moderators who have been here today. I really appreciate it. They are the reason that we can even have chat rooms. They keep it civil and respectful in there. Let's see here. For example, Ruth Krafasi has been moderating over there on YouTube. And, also, you know what I'm going to do? Hold on a second, if you give me a second. Over on Twitch, Good Luck Duck, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, and Surly Dev. Did we get the notifications thing posted? I forget which. Hopefully it'll post right now. Let's see. There it is. Okay. Again, Good Luck Duck, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, Surly Dev. Thanks so much for moderating over there on Twitch. Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley moderating over there on Facebook. Thank you. Linda Bell Glary, Misha on X. Thanks so much to our moderators. Really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who donated. That's super nice of you guys. I really appreciate it. Your support of the channel is what allows the channel to exist. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thanks so much for your support of the channel. I think I thanked everybody. What is this here? One of our viewers, I Love Stamps, wrote to me during the briefing and said, "You know she has lying. You know she is lying." Also, I Love Stamps thinks Trump does not have the power to fire Powell. I just saw the messages. You know, we read an article that said it was a question legally, so we'll have to see where this all goes. Let me just check one other thing here. Once in a while, I miss a couple of comments. Alex Malarkey had asked, do you think it will be brought up at the meeting, Marco Rubio's statement Friday about Russia and Ukraine? I don't even know what that was. Did I miss some statement about Marco Rubio? She did talk a bit about and say there were negotiations were still going on between the White House and Russia and Ukraine. But I'm not even sure what that Marco Rubio statement was. Can I find it quickly here? Sorry if I can't. I think maybe what Alex was referring to, and this was actually asked about in the press briefing, so I won't get too into it. But I think what Alex was referring to is maybe the statement which I had heard about, which is about that the U.S. would pull back on, yeah, right here. Is this the one? Yeah, this is it. So I didn't realize. I think this is what Alex was talking about. U.S. will abandon Ukraine peace push if no progress soon, Trump and Rubio say. And you can see Reuters had reported, this is from last week, last Friday. The U.S. will walk away from efforts to broker a Russia-Ukraine peace deal unless there are some clear signs of progress soon, U.S. President Trump and Secretary of State Rubio said on Friday. Okay, so anyways, that's what Alex was referring to. That was asked about it ultimately, so hopefully Alex saw that. Thanks, Alex, for writing in. Sorry, I missed Alex's message earlier, so I wanted to mention it. We have a chat. You can chat with other viewers when we're not live. On our Discord chat, it's free. A lot of our viewers like doing that. It's the same link as to sign up for the notifications. So check out our Discord chat. Thanks to all of our Discord moderators for all that you do. Really appreciate that. Also, want to mention another good way to find out when we're live and keep up with the channel. If you're on X, follow us on X at Agenda Free TV. I always post there when we're going live. I post updates about the channel there at Agenda Free TV on X. And for those of you who watch on YouTube, I would suggest turning the YouTube notifications on. That can be another helpful way to keep up with when we're live, but it's kind of funky how to do that. So if you're watching on YouTube, what you have to do is subscribe to the channel, and then after you subscribe, you click this bell here, and then you choose all notifications. That is how you turn on the YouTube notifications. So make sure you do that if you subscribed on YouTube. Hey, let's say a couple more thank yous here. Kristen McConnell Gates, thanks so much for subscribing on Facebook. Thanks, Paul Anderson, for modding, too. Thank you, Paul, for modding. Much appreciated. Thanks to our Facebook subscribers like Robert Rial II, Kristen McConnell Gates, Sharon Klassen Goslin, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, and all of our other subscribers over on Facebook. Thanks so much. And our Twitch subscribers, big shout out to you. ZZGGYY, Gina Pina, Wall Street Shaggy, Matthew Kohai 3, Twitcher, Geeg. Thank you for being subscribers. Who else am I missing over there? Really appreciate that. Really appreciate it. All of your support. All of our other subscribers there. Farquad67, thank you. Also our YouTube and all of our other subscribers there. And thanks so much to our YouTube members for supporting the channel, like Eric Johnson, CAC13, NV Prepper. I think it's NV. Hold on. NV Prepper, yes. Thanks, Georgia Peach, for your kind words and for being a member. Georgia Peach, thank you. Member for 17 months. So nice of you. JD63, thanks for being a member. Evelyn in Maine. Ane. Chris N. Roger Shoemaker. Ronin. Jesse's Girl. Context Clueless. Kitty Z. Shelly. Tommy Zinneman. Johnny M. Janet B. Anna. Eliza Jane. KT. Thanks for being members. All right. Ronald Kame, thank you. And all of our other viewers out there. Appreciate you tuning in. Red God. The Blue Pearl. Kimberly Barr. Laura Cooper. Annie Cush, our subscriber. Thank you. So we will keep an eye on the news. I will be traveling back to the U.S. soon. I apologize if I miss anything while I'm traveling back. But it takes a little while to get there from here. I will be flying, but it still takes a little while. All right. That is it. I am wrapping it up. Thanks, Master Voltaire TTV, for watching over there on Twitch. Random Gaming 2099. Thank you. Christy Claft over on Facebook. Thanks for watching there. Who was it? Paula Marie, Darren Charlo, Robert La, Paula Thompson. Thanks for tuning in. All right, we got to wrap it up. We need to wrap it up now. Jacqueline, thanks for watching on Facebook too. All right, we're wrapping it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, Jennifer Ellers, thanks over there on Facebook for tuning in. I know Jennifer is subscribed to the channel. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, that is it for now. Thanks for watching. If there's big news later today or tonight, we'll come on the air and do another live stream. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.